Recognizes the member from California.
Mr. Chairman, the federal government owns just 0.7% of the state of New York. It owns just 1.1% of the state of Illinois. It owns just 1.8% of the entire state of Texas. In fact, the federal government only owns 1/4 of Washington, D.C. But then go farther west and you'll see the problem. The federal government owns and controls 62% of the state of Alaska, 2/3 of Utah, and 4/5 of the state of Nevada. It owns nearly half of my home state of California. In one county in my district, Alpine County, the federal government owns 96%. People from the East have no idea what that means. That's all land that's off the local tax rolls. That's all land that carries increasingly severe restrictions on public use and access, which means it's generating very little economic activity for those regions. And often, federal ownership means the federal land use policies are in direct contravention to the wishes of the local communities that are entangled with it. Now, when we Republicans held the majority, one of our federal land objectives was to restore the federal government as a good neighbor to those communities directly impacted by the federal lands. The bill before us does exactly the opposite. This bill adds 1.5 million acres of federal land to wilderness restrictions, meaning you can't even bring a stroller on these lands. This land grab is strongly opposed by the local communities it would directly affect. The Mesa County Commission in Garfield County, Colorado, opposed this bill because of concerns it will further restrict public access and increase the risk of fire. The congressman representing those areas opposed the legislation. 80% of Del Norte County in California is already owned by the state and federal governments, and their Board of Supervisors is protesting the further restriction of public access to these lands, noting that these lands don't even meet wilderness criteria. Trinity County has also formally opposed the bill, yet we're plowing ahead anyway. The Monrovia City Council protests the enormous economic burdens this bill would place on their city. So, too, the Grays Harbor County Commission and the city councils of Aberdeen and Cosmopolis in Washington State beg us not to impose these restrictions on their communities, and I could go on. Representing the Sierra Nevada of California, I can tell you there are no more fierce or knowledgeable guardians of our forests than the people who live among them. My amendment simply restores the good neighbor policy that Republicans practiced for many years. It simply provides that wilderness restrictions cannot be imposed until the county in which the land is located approves of them. I would ask our Democratic colleagues to show a little humility and a little mercy in exercising their power by listening to the people most affected by their decisions and adopt this amendment. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves for what purpose does the